You are not anxious because life is hard. You are anxious because your mind is weak. 2,000 years ago, Seneca warned that most people would live their entire lives in fear, not because they were threatened, but because they never learned how to control their thoughts. He predicted a world exactly like ours, comfortable, distracted, overstimulated, and mentally collapsing. Seneca did not teach Stoicism to make people feel calm. He taught it to make them unbreakable. And if he were alive today, he wouldn't comfort you. He would diagnose you. Seneca believed something terrifying, that most people die without ever living. They postpone courage. They delay meaning. They trade their inner life for comfort and approval. And by the time they realize it, time is already gone. In this video, we're going beyond surface-level Stoicism to uncover what Seneca actually meant, and why his teachings are more dangerous, more relevant, and more necessary now than ever. Most people misunderstand Seneca. They reduce him to motivational quotes, aesthetic stoicism, or surface-level calmness. But Seneca was never teaching comfort, and he was never promising peace without cost. Seneca was teaching survival inside a collapsing world. He lived in political chaos, constant threat, betrayal, exile, and the quiet knowledge that his life could be ended at any moment by forces completely outside his control. And instead of asking how to escape suffering, Seneca asked a far more dangerous question. How do you remain unbroken when suffering is unavoidable? This is where modern people miss him entirely. Seneca did not teach Stoicism as a way to feel good. He taught it as a way to remain sovereign when everything is taken from you. He understood something that modern society desperately tries to forget, that most of our suffering is not caused by events, but by our desperate need for events to go our way. Seneca believed the mind is the final battlefield, not the economy, not relationships, not politics, the mind. He wrote that people suffer more in imagination than in reality, and this single insight explains why modern humans, surrounded by comfort, technology, and safety, are more anxious than ancient people who lived under constant threat of death. We suffer in advance. We rehearse disaster. We replay insults that no longer exist. We fear futures that may never arrive. Seneca saw this clearly and warned that a mind trapped in anticipation is never free. To Seneca, time itself was humanity's greatest illusion. He argued that life is not short, but that we waste most of it. And he didn't mean scrolling or distraction alone. He meant something deeper, that we give our time away to things that do not deserve our inner life. We give years to chasing approval, wealth, status, and security, only to realize that none of these can protect us from loss, aging, or death. Seneca believed the tragedy of human life is not death itself, but the realization, too late, that we never truly lived. This is why Seneca was obsessed with death, not in a morbid way, but in a clarifying way. He believed that remembering death sharpens life, that when you accept the certainty of your end, you stop bargaining with time, you stop postponing courage, you stop waiting for permission to become who you already know you must be. In modern terms, Seneca was teaching psychological urgency. He warned that people live as if they are immortal, endlessly delaying the life they actually want. He believed this delay is a form of self-betrayal. You already know what matters to you. You already know which parts of your life are hollow, yet you tolerate them because fear whispers that tomorrow is guaranteed. Seneca reminds us that it is not. Another core teaching of Seneca is his ruthless honesty about desire. He believed that the more you need, the more vulnerable you become. Not because wealth or comfort are evil, but because dependency is weakness. Seneca lived among extreme wealth and power, yet he warned constantly that luxury softens the soul. When you become accustomed to comfort, discomfort feels unbearable. When you need excess to feel whole, you are easily controlled. This is terrifyingly relevant today. Modern society trains people to need constant stimulation, validation, pleasure, and reassurance. Seneca would say this creates fragile minds that collapse when life inevitably becomes difficult. His solution was not poverty, but voluntary hardship. He believed that occasionally, living with less trains, the mind to realize it can survive without panic. In other words, Seneca taught psychological independence. If you can endure hunger without fear, loss without collapse, solitude without despair, then no external force truly owns you. Freedom, to Seneca, was not political. It was internal. A free person is someone whose happiness does not depend on circumstances. This is why Seneca emphasized self-examination so intensely. He believed that every day should end with a silent trial of the self, not self-hatred, not guilt, but honest review. Where did you act from fear? Where did anger control you? Where did you betray your own values for convenience? Seneca believed this daily practice slowly shapes the soul, not through grand gestures, but through consistent self-awareness. Modern people avoid this because it is uncomfortable. We distract ourselves rather than confront ourselves. Seneca would say that avoidance is the root of suffering. The mind that refuses to look inward becomes a prison it cannot escape. He also had a radical view on anger. Seneca believed anger is temporary madness, a loss of rational control that harms the person experiencing it more than the target. He argued that anger feels powerful, but it is actually weakness, a sign that something external has seized command of your inner world. In modern language, anger is reactivity, and a reactive mind is never sovereign. This does not mean suppressing emotion. Seneca did not teach emotional numbness. He taught emotional mastery, to feel without being ruled, to experience without surrendering judgment, to pause before reacting. This pause, Seneca believed, is where wisdom lives. Perhaps Seneca's most misunderstood teaching is his stance on fate. He believed that life does not owe you fairness, that misfortune is not personal, that suffering is not evidence of failure. He taught that fate leads the willing and drags the unwilling, meaning, you can resist reality and suffer endlessly, or you can align yourself with what is unavoidable and preserve your inner peace. This is not passive acceptance. It is intelligent cooperation with reality. Seneca believed strength lies in choosing your response even when you cannot choose your circumstances. Modern people often confuse control with power. Seneca knew true power is adaptability. He also warned about the danger of crowds. He believed that most people absorb the values of those around them without realizing it, that the masses normalize vice, distraction, and shallow ambition. Seneca urged selective exposure, not isolation, but awareness. You must decide which ideas you allow into your mind, because eventually they shape who you become. This is more relevant now than ever. Every screen is a crowd. Every algorithm pushes values into your consciousness. Seneca would urge discipline of attention. He believed your mind is sacred territory, and not everything deserves access. At his core, Seneca was teaching one thing: alignment. Alignment between values and actions, between awareness and behavior, between mortality and urgency, between inner peace and outer chaos. He believed that happiness is not found by changing the world, but by changing how deeply the world controls you. Seneca did not promise an easy life. He promised a life that cannot be conquered. And that is why his philosophy endures. Not because it removes pain, but because it teaches you how to carry pain without breaking. Not because it guarantees success, but because it frees you from needing it. Not because it shields you from death, but because it teaches you how to live before death arrives. This is Stoicism in its true form. Not aesthetic, not passive, not weak, but disciplined, sharp, grounded, and unshakable. If this philosophy resonates with you, if you want to build a mind that remains calm in chaos, sovereign under pressure, and unafraid of truth, then you are exactly where you need to be. Subscribe to Stoic Gateway, because ancient wisdom is useless unless it transforms the modern mind.